Good morning and welcome back to the 120th. Today I'm going to be talking about scanning of negatives, and specifically scanning negatives using a PIXL-LATR, which is a plastic 3D printed frame that you use to hold your negatives still whilst you scan them, probably with a DSLR or a digital camera of some sort. I'll quickly show you what's in here. It's basically that is your PIXL-LATR. Let's take these, it's got lots of different bits that you can use, but essentially the PIXL-LATR is that. So first things first, what is it for? Well, it is obviously for scanning your negatives, DSLR scanning or digital cameras. That whole is referred to as DSLR scanning, but that of course is pretty out of date now. Not too many DSLRs being sold these days. So DSLR is kind of wrong, and of course the scanning bit is kind of wrong as well, because scanning would usually refer to something like a flatbed scanner where you're kind of going line by line, scanning an image. But for the purposes of this, what we're really referring to is taking photos of your negatives so that you can turn them into a digital image, which you can then share on social media. So we're kind of digitising, we're digitising our analog negatives. I'll talk about why you might want to do that. I'll talk about my process for scanning my negatives. And I will talk also about obviously the PIXL-LATR, whether it's any good and why you might use it and how it works. So let's get cracking. I've got a ton of negatives to scan. All of the stuff that I've been shooting over the last few weeks, I've been kind of saving it up to do it on camera just for you to see what exactly it is and how it works. I'm gonna have to show you a part of my office that is not normally seen, and there is a good reason it's not normally seen, and that's because it's a mess. But I can't really do this any other way, so let's here we go. So this over here is my scanning setup. Let's turn this light on so that you can actually see what's going on. This is just an LED like tracing panel off Amazon. This here is actually a monitor stand clamped onto the desk just here. In here we've got a Manfrotto super clamp, and then this is a Manfrotto or a Niwa macro slider basically. I've used this setup with multiple cameras. Most recently I used to use it with an A7R II, then I was using it with an A7 III. I've recently got rid of most of my full frame photographic equipment. So what's actually on here at the moment is Sony A5100. This is an Earth Sony NEX or Sony E2 M42 adapter, and in there is a single small macro tube and a macro extension tube. So I've got some 4x5, I've got some 120, I've got some 35mm. I've also got a 3¼ by 4¼ glass plate that I'm going to scan using the PIXL-LATR, because that's what this is for. That's the 3¼ by 4¼ So how cool is that? It's going to be good fun. All right, I'm going to put this camera on a tripod and let's do some scanning. Right then, so this is the setup. This is where we're going to be doing it. As you can see here, we've got an image on the screen, which is the negative that's underneath. I've actually tried multiple different ways of doing this, of going through this scanning process. I had a digitalizer. I had the Lomography Digitalizers for a while. Couldn't stand them. Hated them. I thought they're an absolute pain in the arse. First of all, the really irritating thing is that your film has to be in strips, and every time you can scan through. So for example, with 120 film, it's 3 images to a strip, and once you've done those 3 images, you have to take the whole thing apart, load the next strip. Now one of my big issues is impatience, as a lot of you will already know. I like things to be quick. So I had the Lomography Digitalizers, and I got rid of them because they were too slow and they irritated the hell out of me. I then, for a long time, was essentially doing it by hand. And that's all very well for something like a 4x5 negative, as you can see here, which will sit and kind of behave itself on the light panel. But if we take this away and bring in, for example, All right, so let's say, for example, you're holding that in place. Now you probably can't quite see there, but that's curving. So there it is, curving up, and you can see when I hold it flat, you can see the difference. And that obviously means that when you look at it in here, you may have focus in here, but you're going to get points of focus, and you'll end up with the center of the negative might be in focus, but the edges will be out of focus. There are also other problems with scanning things direct on the light panel, and that is something called Newton's rings, which is all to do with, obviously I do fully understand it, but I'm not going to explain it to you right now. I'll let you Google it and learn for yourself. But it's something to do with the negative being in contact with a light panel or something. I'll show you, I'll put an example up now of Newton's rings and what it looks like. That's what will happen if you have the negative in contact with the light panel or in contact with a piece of glass above it. So the solution is to essentially come up with some device that suspends the negative above the light panel in a fixed position where it's not going to move, it's not going to wriggle around, and you can then set your focus on the camera and know that it's in focus and you can take a shot. Let's get started with a sheet of 4x5. In theory, the easiest thing to scan. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the rest of the lights off. So let's just see how the camera copes with that. So you can kind of not see me really, but you know, that's all right. I've turned all the rest of the lights off so we don't get ugly reflections from the negatives. We are then, I'm going to clean the light panel. Right, we'll then take our 4x5 negatives, and you should normally wear gloves for this. So we then open this by, I'll talk you through, I'll take you through the kind of how exactly everything works. I'm then going to put it in place here, and you can see on this screen. So I've got a 2-second delay on this to make sure that we don't get any camera shake. So I'm going to push the shutter button. It's going to give me a 2-second countdown, and then it's going to take an image. So here we go. And there we go. Just try this one as well. Do another 4x5 before we move. Now, as this is a manual focus lens and we're using this holder, that shouldn't have changed. I will double check the focus just because this is the second one. Okay, I'm happy. Let's scan. Okay, and that's 2 done. Right then, now let's do some 120. First thing we need to do is we need to change the masks. Okay, and we are then going to go, you can go either way. It's very kind of user friendly, and right, I need to change my camera angle here. So I need to get my camera closer. And this is the great thing about the PIXL-LATR, that we can just push down on the bottom, slide the film along, and lift, slide, close. And that is the end of a roll of 120. I will now chop that up and put it into kind of archival sleeves, but how easy was that, just to roll it all the way through? All right, next on the list, we are going to do a roll of 35mm. So this is our frame. We're going to be digitizing here, and it will be approximately that big. And we're going to go through the same process. Lift it up, slot it in, slide it along. Here we go, ready to go again, 35mm. We're going to keep that focus, and we're just going to go through the whole roll, see how long it takes us. Here we go. There's one. Push the bottom, slide it along. And that is a 24 frame roll of 35mm done. So, and that took what? About 4 minutes with a few stops. That is the sort of turnaround time I'm looking for. Okay, and finally, we're going to insert this rectangle frame, and we are going to drop in a 3¼ by 3¼ by 4¼ glass plate. And there we go. And that is all of my scanning, digitalizing, done for the day. Let's swap the cameras around, turn the lights back on, and let us discuss. Okay, so that PIXL-LATR worked pretty well for scanning those pictures. I was pretty happy with those. Quick confession that I need to make, and that is that the images you were seeing were not actually taken with this Pentacon electric 50mm 1.8 with the extension tubes, and that's because they all turned out really weird. So anyway, I went out and bought myself this, which is a 7 Artisans 60mm f2.8. Which turns out is an amazing lens. Manual focus only, but it's really a beautiful lens actually. I'm really quite taken with that. So the main thing that I like about this PIXL-LATR is that it makes my scanning process quicker. And I really didn't expect that. I wasn't expecting to make it quicker, and I was expecting it to be a faff and a pain in the bum. But the first time that I met Hamish at, in fact, that analog spotlight event, and Hamish Gill is the creator of this, he mentioned it to me, and we talked about how I was doing my scanning at that stage, sort of freehand, and he asked if I wanted to try it, and my initial reaction was, yeah, no, I'm all right. I'd tried that Lomography Digitaliza thing, and I was pretty convinced from the Lomography one that I did not need this kind of stuff, this kind of kit, slowing down my workflow. There are some drawbacks, obviously, namely that as things are set up at the moment, I can't include the edges of the film, the edges of the frame in a scan. You're kind of constrained by the borders that it gives you. But that is basically the only thing that I've lost. One of the problems with this, and this is a terrific LED panel. I can't even remember what there's no brand on it. It's one of these kind of cheap Chinese things off Amazon. I'll put a link to that in the description. It's not an affiliate link, I won't earn any money out of it, but just to show you which one I use and the fact it's really good. But one of its drawbacks is, if you look on the back, it's got feet in all 4 corners, and it has a tendency to bow. Let's see if you can see it there. It does sag in the middle slightly. And that causes a problem if I'm hand holding negatives on it, because there is a slight curvature, which means that you are getting, it's tiny, it's like fractions of a millimeter, which means that the focus is not going to be 100% across the whole negative, and that's obviously is a problem, and that's something that bothers me. But the PIXL-LATR obviously does its own thing. So even if this LED panel bows in the middle, that PIXL-LATR will straighten it out. So it's useful from that point of view as well. A few bits about the PIXL-LATR itself. So straight out of the box, it allows you to do 35mm, pretty much all formats of 120 and 4x5. And then there are a number of additional things. None of this is expensive. So I think that PIXL-LATR and all the pieces on Hamish's website is about £37 at the moment. They've kind of got an accessory for almost everything. So this one is obviously 3x4 glass plates, and that was a perfect fit. That was really good, and that just drops straight in there like so, as you saw, and that did a great job with my 3x4 glass plates. They also do a range of other things, and these are all costing somewhere between £6 and £8 roughly. 3x4 glass plates, 6x6 slides, 3¼ square glass plates, APS 127, 35mm sprocket holes, 110. So you really can get almost every format available. And like I say, none of them are more than about £8. So to wrap up the PIXL-LATR, I would not have gone out and bought one if I hadn't run into Hamish at that analog spotlight event. I'm not convinced that all of these contraptions actually make your workflow any better. Do they create a significant increase in quality? I would say no, not significant, not wild. There is an increase in quality and an increase in consistency, which is important. I always want to have a speed option. I want an option where I can just get it done, get through as many scans as possible. Quite often, if I've done a load of videos, I will develop upwards of 10 or 15 rolls at a time. I don't want a scanning process that is going to take half an hour per roll. I'll never get it all done, and I'll lose heart and I'll lose interest. What I want to be able to do is what you saw me do, which is rattle through, bang, 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 bang. What the PIXL-LATR does, which I was pleasantly surprised about, is it actually speeds up how I'm doing it. And it also creates more consistency, which means that I'm losing fewer photos. I'm having to go back and rescan less often. So all in all, it's definitely an improvement. It's a good addition to my armory. And I will continue using it. I actually will do probably all of my scans with this now, because it is an improvement on how I was doing things before. And that is a surprise to me. Okay, what's next? I'll tell you what's next. Now that I have done that test frame on the 3x4 glass plates, that's definitely something that's going to be coming out very soon, because I was super chuffed with the results of that. So I will be doing more of that. The 3x4 speed graphic will be coming out again. The 4x5 speed graphic will be coming out a lot over the next couple of weeks. I've got some fixes coming up, some camera fixes. I'm going to be attempting to re-cement a lens group on one of my lenses for the Mamiya RB67. That RB67 I'll be getting out quite a few times over the next couple of weeks as well. So thank you once again to Hamish Gill for sending me a PIXL-LATR to try. That PIXL-LATR will be in constant use now for all of my scans, my digitalising from here on. That's it for today. Bye.